old days of Formula One, drivers losing their life behind the wheel was a regular occurrence. In total, 8 drivers died during the 1960s and 9 during the 1970s. Since then, safety within the sport and motor racing as a whole has improved massively. But after a 20-year period of no fatalities within Formula One, Jules Bianchi's crash called into question the safety of Formula One once again. Since Formula One began, the cars have always had an open cockpit, which means the driver's head is outside of the car and exposed. But this will no longer be the case, as the FIA has made it mandatory for all F1 and F2 cars to have a halo device fitted to them for the 2018 season.
The halo is made up of 2 main parts: a loop that sits above the driver's head, and a central pillar which sits in front of the driver and connects the halo to the carbon fibre cockpit of the car. The idea behind the device is to protect the driver's head from other cars and debris during an incident. This documentary will explore what those involved in racing think of the halo and the fact that it's not being introduced to all formulas from the same point. It will not appear in F3 and F4 until next year at the earliest. I travelled to Woking to speak with F4 driver Oliver York.
From this season going to come in F1 and F2.
Yeah.
However, F4, you guys aren't going to get that from the same point. Is that something that bothers you as a driver kind of coming up through the categories?
Well, yes and no. I mean, for me, I wouldn't really want to drive with a halo. It's an obstruction in your vision. You can't really see, like I always look up a little bit. You can kind of judge what's going to happen in front at the start. So say someone stalls and there's a car in the car and you can't really see, just that little bit of vision may potentially stop you from hitting a car or something. So I mean, it's always a good idea to bring it, but I think it would be good for formulas like this. So say we're going up the ladders and we don't get to experience a halo, we go straight into it when a couple of drivers already experienced it. And, I mean, we probably will get experiences with simulators and stuff, but you won't actually get to experience it in real life. There was no fear there. I don't think it would put anyone on the edge. You're always on the edge constantly in a car. You're always trying to find that little bit extra on anyone else, and if that's not there, it doesn't really make it that much exciting. I think the element of fear is always going to be there. It will never not be there, but I think if you bring in more safety, it may be a bit more comfortable for some drivers, but for me, I think the fear doesn't really affect me. I think once you're in the zone in the car, you just black out anything. You're just in the zone, just want to go fast. This year I was in British Formula 4 and Billy lost both his legs. It's a big known around the car world. I mean, it went massive, and everyone was like, my dad over there, he said, if you don't want to race, you can stop anytime soon. And my instant reaction was no, I just want to carry on racing. That's what I've been doing for my life. There's no stopping me.
And what do you think about the way that the fans have reacted to the halo?
If you look on the social media, a lot of people are exploding over it, saying it looks ugly. I mean, there's a lot of safety going over that, like Jules Bianchi, Justin Wilson, people like that, who've all had head injuries from this and died from this kind of accident. So I mean, from a spectator's point of view, they don't want to see people dying.
So young F4 drivers like Oliver may not be overly impressed by the halo, but what do those who race in completely closed cars think? To find out, I met with Junior Clio Cup driver Lewis Doyle.
I think it is the danger which makes racing exciting, because when you think of it, look at single seaters. Formula One is the most famous sport, we can all say that. Look at Le Mans. Le Mans is just the same speed, if not faster, but they've got roofs over the head. So, but with single seaters like F1, there's more people going to watch their races and stuff like that, and they have an open cockpit. But I think that's what makes F1 so good. F1, in this perspective, the only way they could make F1 safer is the halo. But the problem with the halo is the drivers have to get out of the car within I think it's about 3 seconds, because you saw, I think it was Kevin Magnussen, he had a fire on board his car and he just jumped out. But with the halo, it's you've really got to try and get out. I've driven a single seater myself, and even getting out the car is slow, and then adding another thing on top of that which you've got to get out of. I think it looks ugly. That's my opinion. And you saw the F1 fans as soon as it came out, they were like, oh, what's this, what's that? It doesn't look good, stuff like that. So yeah, I do. I think it does get rid of the element of excitement, because it's just not the way F1 was, and it won't ever change.
Yeah.
Maybe if they had it at the start, that'd change, but then it's looking more of a tin top than a single seater. If you look at if Formula One's too dangerous, why not put a halo on Formula 4?
Oliver and Lewis are both at the beginning of their racing careers and are yet to experience driving the cars in the top formulas. To look further into the discussion behind the Halo, I wanted to get the views of someone who has worked their way up through the different classes of single-seater racing, and who has gotten behind the wheel of a Formula One car. Jordan King now races in IndyCar in the US, but has previously raced in Formula 2 and was a test driver for the Marussia Formula 1 team, working alongside Jules Bianchi.
The FIA have tested a lot of safety things rigorously already, so I don't think it's a case of it needs to be put in one category to check it works. I would like to think, and I'm pretty sure, that they already know where they stand with their safety method. So yes, if the time, the energy, the money is there, but only there for one category, then put it in that category. I don't see why you should hold it back and wait. The Halo, if you look at certain incidents, it wouldn't have protected from those. You take Felipe Massa, the spring was this big. It still would have gone through the gap in the Halo, still would have hit his helmet.
So I just thought I would explain for those of you who aren't sure the exact accident that Jordan's referring to. I thought I'd show you on the screen here. So what he's talking about is an accident that happened back in 2009 at the Hungarian Grand Prix, where in practice 2, Rubens Barrichello, a spring fell off the back of his car, bounced along the track at around 150 miles an hour and came into contact with Felipe Massa. And I'll show you exactly kind of how that looked like. As you saw from the footage there, the spring bounced up off the track and made contact with Felipe Massa's helmet. This knocked him unconscious and his foot remained on the accelerator. Thankfully, his other foot also went onto the brake, meaning the car slowed down a little bit as he went off the track and careered into the barrier. Now, the argument here is that the Halo, having the gaps within the device, is designed to stop bigger debris or other cars themselves from making contact with the driver's head. But in Felipe Massa's accident, and others like it, where smaller debris is involved, it potentially wouldn't stop the driver from having a serious accident.
The Halo for me is probably not the final solution. I think it's a bit of a quick fix, plaster over something that maybe needs a longer term solution.
Everyone we've spoken to so far has been looking at a driver's safety from inside the car. But what about the team around them looking on? Alice Powell works as a driver's coach with youngsters coming up through the racing categories. She was working with Billy Munger at the time of his accident and was the first female in history to score points in GP3. Working now as a mentor for young drivers, what does she think about this decision from the FIA?
I think the FIA have taken the right direction. Obviously, after the unfortunate incident with Jules, obviously the Massa incident where they put the thing across the visor, that was a good step. So it's a good step in the right direction. Obviously, I worked with Billy Munger, who unfortunately lost his legs. That was the car. Their full cars are extremely safe. They've made adaptations, to the car to make it a bit more safer. But when there's safety involved, obviously the money is a lot higher. Everyone was moaning, and I was little bit the same actually. When I first saw the Halo, I thought, it looks horrible. It looks like people created a flip-flop. But actually now I've seen more pictures of it. It doesn't look that bad. Same, like I said, with the IndyCar with the visor, that looks pretty good as well. So I think that from my point of view of being a fan, I wouldn't mind it being, in Formula One and in the lower formulas. Like I said, it's not going to affect the racing at all. There's still going to be racing wheel to wheel. But if it just adds a little bit of safety and still looks pretty good, then I'd welcome it with open arms.
Throughout this documentary, we've spoken to young drivers at the beginning of their racing career, someone who was working alongside Jules Bianchi, and a driver coach who has seen one of her young drivers have a horrific accident. These people may not all agree that the Halo is the best thing to look at, or indeed choose to have it on their race car. But something they all do agree on is that racing will always be dangerous. Now, no one at this stage really knows if the Halo is the best solution, but even if it only saves the life of one driver, it will achieve its purpose.